Welcome back to All In. I am your host, Alex Mansted, and this is the podcast for dreamers who take action. I am very excited for today's episode. When I started this podcast, I had a vision of how I wanted to execute it and deliver it, and especially in the beginning, what I wanted it to be about. And it really is a collection of my stories, of my learnings, all of the things as I've gone along in my 35 years of life, and just sharing it with the world. If anyone knows anything about human design, I'm a generator and I'm a line 6-2. So what that means for anyone who doesn't know about human design is it simply means that part of what makes me feel in alignment is by me sharing my lived experience. I very much learn, integrate, and then share. And it feels really good for me to do that. So having a podcast makes so much sense, and building the business that I'm building with All In makes so much sense as well. And this episode today is one that has been in my heart for a very long time to share. However, it didn't fully feel ready, which is actually part of, I guess, the way that I do things is I don't share from a place when I'm in the middle of it because it doesn't make sense to me yet. I really do best when I've had a chance to process it, integrate it, and then share from that place. And it makes so much more sense to me when I do it that way. And I think that it's more powerful for whoever I'm sharing it with as well, because they're not getting kind of the middle, messy, crazy bit. Doesn't mean I don't share things when I'm in the middle of it or in the messy bits, because I think there's so much to that as well. However, it all clicks and makes sense on the other side. I think that's pretty normal. Anyway, my point for this little tangent is this episode today, which is all about my business and career story. As I was reflecting on it, as I was writing the outline, writing the notes, and really grounding into what I wanted to share today, it's become so clear to me that even though this episode is about my business and career journey, it's so much deeper than that. And it always is with me. I'm a Scorpio moon, but it's always deeper than me just wanting to start a business, and as I go along, as I tell the story, I think you'll be able to kind of see the themes that play out. This story, like, I personally, if I was hearing this story, I'd be like, wow, that's so wild. It's a story of getting knocked down quite a few times and getting the fuck back up. That's literally, if I was to say the theme of my life, and I really do feel that time in my life, it's not that chapter anymore. I don't know if that's me like being delusional, talking myself into that, but I really do feel that this is a different chapter now. I feel very shifted in my sense of self, in the way I'm living life, and it no longer feels like I'm in this portion of my life. I don't know if that makes any sense. It just feels different. I feel different. I am in a different version. I'm in a different timeline. I'm in a different sense. And when I look back on this story, it really does make so much sense why it had to play out the way that I did, why it played out the way that it did. And I think the biggest theme that I can see is, getting knocked down, getting back up, getting knocked down, getting back up, and a deep, deep, deep sense of discovery, exploration of myself. And if I really think about it, my business and career journey, like that's the surface level way of saying it, has literally been the journey or the exploration of believing in myself and finding my capability and coming back to myself and self-trust, a massive undoing in a lot of ways. And I really feel very purposeful about this episode. I'm excited to share this. So I'm going to start at the very beginning and answer the question that we're all asked as young children. What do you want to be when you grow up? I wanted to be an actress growing up. That was all I wanted to do, was in some way, I don't think it was like be a movie star or anything like that, but I just wanted, now when I reflect on it, I think I wanted to entertain. I wanted to perform. I loved singing. I loved dancing. I loved acting. I was in drama class as a kid. I was in many plays, dance classes, was on stage, and singing I never got into, but in my room, that was where the real concerts happened. So I think that I was always kind of destined to shine in a lot of ways, but I could never, throughout my life, and you'll hear that through the story, it's like I could never really get to that point where I would allow myself to fully shine, to fully just go all in and let myself be me. And you can go back and obviously listen to other episodes, and I will forever be saying that in every episode, because I feel like I am capturing the story of the different areas of my life, really. And you'll notice also a theme of quite a bit of childhood conditioning. That's probably the best word for it. A lot of things that happened in my childhood and my upbringing that made it difficult for me as I got older. And there's so much within that. But I feel like a lot of my life has been a reparenting and an undoing and a discovering. I feel like I didn't learn certain foundations at a young age. And then as I've grown up, I've really had to go on the journey of learning them. And I do not think I'm alone in that. I think that is a lot of people in this world. So growing up, I wanted to entertain, perform, be an actress. And then eventually, as I went along, that started to shift. Now, I want to touch a tiny bit on my school years, because that's a massive piece to this story, and kind of the theme of self-doubt and fear, and where I truly do believe that also came from. I'm not here to talk shit about the school system for an hour. However, I will say school did not help me. It really didn't. Growing up in school, I definitely had some learning difficulties, which now I understand I just learn completely differently to what a school system is set up for. And again, I know I'm not alone in that, but I was almost set up in that system to fail, because I just do not learn in the same ways that a schooling system is set up for. And the irony is the more that I have learned how I learn well, I'm actually fucking smart. I'm actually capable. I'm actually quite good at understanding information, implementing it, executing it. But in that system, it made me feel like a failure. It really did. And that was mirrored back to me in teachers. I had 2 teachers that spring to mind who were like, if they said the things they said to me now or to a child around me, I'd have a lot of things to say, that is for sure. And it stuck with me. That was one of the particular teachers who I looked up to greatly, pretty much told me I'm not going to amount to anything in this life. And literally there was no real, if you don't do this is what's going to happen. It was just like, she literally said to me, you need to leave the school because you're just wasting everyone's time. You're not smart. You're not capable. You're not going to be able to do the things that you need to do here, and you should just leave. Horrible, horrible thing to say to a young girl. And this was obviously when I was in high school. Imagine a primary school teacher saying that. But anyway, throughout my schooling years, I was not a good student, quote unquote, in that school system. I was deemed a failure in a lot of ways. Some stuff I thrived at. I loved history. I loved English. And, there were some areas that it's clear I had potential. Like, if you read my diary, it was nonstop, Alex has potential, but she lacks attention or focus or whatever it was. And yes, there was also other things playing out that are not the teacher's responsibilities, things within my childhood, things within my home, things that were my parents' responsibility. So this is not all in the schooling system. This is not all on my parents, but I guess I'm just analyzing where I think my beliefs and therefore my actions in life played out, where they came from and then how they played out. So this is not a blame or anything like that, but I can see so clearly where I adopted this mindset that I am not smart, I'm not capable, I am a failure, I will not amount to anything, and it's going to be really hard for me to kind of do anything in life. So if I go back to me, little Alex, even from a young age, but then as I went along in life, I always felt like I was meant for big things. And I don't mean big things like up on a stage as a pop star, which freaking maybe that would have been my path and that would have been amazing. But I just feel like in general, I feel that I have always been meant for really purposeful things in life. And I believe that's true for everyone. I believe everyone is here to do things, to do great things, to do things that light them up, to do things they're passionate about, to create, to explore. And I think that we have grown up in systems and conditions that haven't always nurtured that. And that's why I guess I'm telling this part of the story, because it was a real formative experience of my belief system and then what transpired as I grew up. So And again, I want to make sure I take some understanding here, not responsibility or accountability, but I want to make sure I say this. There were so many factors. It wasn't just schooling. It wasn't just my family situation. It was a few different things. And this is why I'm so passionate about conscious parenting. When I have children one day, it's something that I'm really mindful of how my children learn and how they develop. And I already have such an interest in that topic because I feel I've had to reparent myself quite a bit. To give the tiniest bit of backstory, like my mum growing up was very sick. My dad was basically her full-time carer eventually. And life in our home was in a lot of ways very chaotic and also very loving, also very beautiful in so many ways. But there was an extreme of things. I definitely didn't go without some things and other things I did. So again, I feel like the more that I speak to people, this is like pretty standard for them growing up, is their childhoods had things, in it that were not perfect. And I don't think life is meant to be about that. I really do not think life is meant to be 100% perfect and then that it's just like a straight line. I just don't think that that's the way life works. And all these things that have happened, like everything I'm explaining to you, I preface it by saying I have a deep gratitude and compassion and respect for my life and the way it's played out. I can see so clearly why it played out the way that it did, and it had to play out that way. So I guess I have a deep acceptance. That's what I would say, is I have a deep acceptance, and that's taken me a while to get to that place. But I look back and I wouldn't change a thing. I would not change a thing. However, what I love about my life story is that there's so many learnings, and I like passing them on. Hence why you're here listening to this podcast. And I really do hope it can give something. So by the time I left school, so keeping in mind, I was not the greatest student. I really was so bored. And then also because of other things that were going on, I was quite a rebellious teen. I wouldn't even say rebellious. I just grew up in a place where I could kind of do whatever I wanted, and that I didn't have boundaries. Boundaries were not taught to me. So therefore I kind of did do whatever I wanted. And you can imagine as a teenager, that's not always the best decision. So I did definitely act out. I don't know if that's the right word, because it wasn't like I was being restricted at home or anything like that, but I definitely lent into having lots of fun and being naughty and doing some pretty wild things. And again, I wouldn't necessarily change that, but this is the learnings, right? So by the time, and I do share this, I was kicked out of 3 different schools in high school. So, and I'm not going to go into the stories of them. I mean, maybe I will one day just for a bit of entertainment, but yeah, I was kicked out of pretty much every high school I was in, asked to leave. Basically where they were like, you clearly do not want to be here. And, what else can you go and do in the world? Go get an apprenticeship, babe. Like that was the vibe. So by the time my last school, my 3rd school of high school, that was when the teacher said what she said to me, like the real extreme one. And that wasn't the first comment I got that really stuck with me. And again, like just deal with it better. Anyway, so that comment and then a few other things, I was just like, right, I'm just going to leave and get a job. So basically it was just like, this is just not for me anymore. So I'm going to move on and I'm going to go make some money. That was the vibe for me. I was like, I'm going to go make money. I'm going to go and get a great job. And this was when my thoughts of starting a business started to happen. I started reading these books, and I wonder if she would still be writing books, but her name was Tilly Bagshaw, and then there was Louise Bagshaw, and I think they were sisters, I'm guessing, or it was a happy coincidence. These books were basically about ambitious women who had insane, visions for their life, and they just went after it. It was my first dose of reading women in creation. That was kind of what it was. And I think that I was, like I said, from a young age, I was already ambitious. I was already hungry for something exciting and big in life. But I think that this was where it started to shape in terms of the business world, the corporate world, kind of being someone in business and the corporate world. So business, it was kind of like, it was in my head, but I didn't know what I ever wanted to do. And so therefore I went and got a job. My first ever job was at Aon. And Aon is like one of the biggest insurance brokers in the world. And I just got a corporate job as like admin assistant. And basically that started my journey with insurance. So this was where I actually am so grateful for my time in insurance, and I'll get to what I'm doing now, but it's all kind of come full circle. Insurance is, and anyone who's listening to this who may be one of my previous colleagues or who's been in the industry, it is actually a fantastic industry if you don't know what you want to do with your life. You can make incredible money, and the skills that you learn are so transferable. Every skill that I have learned in insurance has transferred into my business now and businesses, and I'll get to obviously what I'm doing now, but it's all transferred beautifully, and I really do regret nothing. For anyone who doesn't know what an insurance broker is, you're literally the middleman between an insurance company and a business. So I would work with business owners of all different types. And as I went along in my career, they got more complex and much larger $1 million businesses and very exciting stuff. So I was on behalf of the client negotiating their insurance programs with insurers. So I learned so much during that time, even just about regulations and law. What else? Just risk. It makes so much sense again, how I fell into this industry. My dear best friend, my dear Cindy, if she's listening, her name's actually Haley, but anyway, she came to me and was like, if you join Aon and you get the job, I get a referral fee. And I think it was like $1,500 or $2,000. So it was something quite decent. And she was like, I'll split it with you. And if you get the job, I was like, well, yes, fuck yeah. And at this point, keep in mind, I'm like living for the weekends. I'm very social, loving my friends, but I have these aspirations of career, of business, more career at that point in terms of like being in a corporate business, building my career in that way. And then, so yeah, I joined Aon, and Haley and I had the best time during that time as well. I made so many friends throughout that industry. I just learnt so much, and it's a very fun industry. It's all based on networking and who you know, because you're the middleman. It really is all based around your relationships with insurers, with clients. This was where I grasped my real experience in sales. And previous to this, I'd had other jobs, but I'm just starting the story here because we'd be here forever if I was going into every single job I had. You know, I've worked at KFC, I've worked at a lingerie store, I've worked in telecommunication marketing, I've worked in so many different things before that point, after school, and then in that. But 18 was when I joined Aon and really started, I guess, my career in that respect. So yeah, and the insurance industry itself, like I said, it's got so many benefits to it. And it also has a side to it that I wouldn't say is very helpful for the place that I'm in now. I feel like there is layers to it. I think the corporate world in general has a lot of toxicity. And it honestly depends on where you're at in your life, right? But for me at that time, it's very, like, the insurance industry can be very heavy on networking and socializing, which leads to lots of drinking and being out, and it's a lot external as well. So I was a broker for about 10 years before I started to again shift towards, I want to start my own business one day. I just didn't really know what it was, and I was always like heavily interested into business, always educating myself, always watching TED Talks, always watching different things, doing courses online, doing all different things of just learning what I could, and also eating up everything I was learning in my current roles that I knew one day would transfer into a business. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for what I've accumulated in that respect. And it's all being put to good use now. So I love that something that when I was in it, it didn't feel this way. I'm speaking about it obviously with great respect and gratitude now, but when I was in it, it was extremely difficult to see how one day this is going to be for my greatest good and be for my benefit. So when I was in it, I was like, I just really want to get out of this industry. Yeah, I was also just going through so much in my personal life during those years as well. And there was just so much that happened that I was navigating that also played into like, I don't think this is really what I want to do for the rest of my life. But I really did enjoy climbing the ladder in that respect. I made some incredible friends through that industry and even clients. I learned so much about people's businesses because you're literally having to dig through their business to find risks and review and analyze their businesses to a T to then understand it. So I learned a lot about business just by working with business owners, which was really cool. And then on top of that, like I said, the art of selling, and I truly do believe everyone is capable of learning how to sell. We sell it ourselves every single day. It is a natural skill, compelling, influencing, selling. It is what we do all day long, whether you mean to or not. And I loved learning about what makes the difference in somebody buying something versus somebody not. And yeah, I found marketing and all of that side of things really interesting, lead generation. Anyway, so I learned a lot through those 10 years. However, then I decided to shift towards working in the back end of insurance broking. So I worked in operations. I moved into more office manager, then operations manager roles, and just being more in the back end of things. And I really loved that because part of what I love about business is the execution side of it, is how somebody comes up with an idea or a product or a service or something and then execute on it and have it come to life. I think that is so cool. And if I think about why I love it so much, is it's just creation. And I know that sounds really like kind of, I don't know, a little bit like woo, but it's literally just creation in its full process. And I absolutely love that. And especially as a woman, we are natural creators. I mean, every human is a creator. But I think I fell in love with seeing how you can come up with an idea and a concept and how you bring that to life. So I spent a while in operations. However, eventually that feeling of I want to start my own thing. And this is what I will say as well. I was also working for quite a few bosses during that time, quote unquote leaders. I wouldn't necessarily call them leaders. I was working with people that I was just like, I feel like I can do this better. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way, but just where I'd accumulated enough, learned enough. And also I cared more about culture and the way people feel in a business. I was like, I just personally don't agree or align with the way these businesses are being run anymore. And it just started to weigh on me and eat at me a little bit. And I was like, I just really don't want to do this anymore. Especially in some of those businesses, you could kind of see where people were being taken advantage of or just negative things were happening where I was like, this is not right and I can do this better. And I want to do this better. I want a team that want to be at work and feel nourished and feel purposeful and driven. And I believe there is a way to do that, and that is not happening here. So I started to go on a bit of an exploration whilst I was still in insurance of what would I want to do. And I explored so many things. And just to preface this, keep in mind this whole time really from the time when my mum passed away, which was, I was 25 then. I mean, before that, as you can tell, I was still heavily into personal development, learning about things, business. I'm constantly always learning. I love learning. It's a big part of what lights me up. And I've had to teach myself how to learn because I used to think that I wasn't a good learner. Like I said, from school, I used to think that I would fail and I'm not smart. I'm not able to execute. I can't pass the test. I can't do this. I can't do that. So I've had to teach myself, and now I don't feel that way. Now I feel very capable in my ability to learn and execute from that place. So I didn't really know what it was that I wanted to do, but I was accumulating all this information. I was like, okay, I feel like I need to go and work for somebody else in a startup phase. That's what came to my mind. I was like, I need to go and work in a startup and see how this works and really see it from the ground up, but on someone else's dime. I'd worked in corporates, but they're established businesses, and some of them were smaller in more startup phases or scale up phases, but they were not a true startup where they were really starting from scratch. And yeah, I really wanted to be in the energy of that. This was, I think, in the era as well of like, I don't know, it was just like where startups were a thing, right? This was the very beginning, I think, where startups and being in that energy and, you know, everyone's an entrepreneur nowadays, right? But back then, I think it was a little bit more just starting to build up. Everyone was watching people build in public. That was the very beginning of building in public on social media. And so I feel like that I was very influenced by that, of like, I really want to be in that energy of a business that's at the beginning and be in it with them, because I wasn't ready for my own thing yet. So anyway, I took the leap, and I just, thanks to my networking skills that I had accumulated in insurance, I started reaching out to different people, and it just kind of led me to a particular entrepreneur, I'll call him. And we had a chat one day, and he met with me. We just had a coffee. I literally just reached out to him to be like, listen, you don't know me, you know my friend, you've got all of these businesses, you've done all these amazing things. Can I please just have 20 minutes of your time? I'll buy you a coffee. I just really want to ask you some questions and understand some things. Off the back of that conversation, he hired me for his business, his startup in the tech world. And I was so excited. I was so excited by going into this business, because I was like, you know what? Whatever happens, and don't get me wrong, there was a back and forth of like, should I do this? I was in a high paying job in insurance. Am I really going to leave? I was taking a back step in pay and taking a massive risk joining a, fairly unstable startup. I didn't know how unstable at the time, but anyway, a fairly unstable startup. And yeah, I'm joining this business. What if it all falls apart? Like, what if I regret this? So there was a lot of back and forth. I eventually did this work called fear setting, and you can do this yourself. You write down your fears, you write down the worst case scenarios. What would happen if you did this and it failed? What would be the worst case scenario? What would be the best case scenario? What would be the average case scenario? And you kind of just work through and analyze it. And from that place, you're able to make a decision. And the decision was, I'm going all in, baby. I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to try this out. And if all else fails, so be it. So I joined. That lasted 5 months before COVID hit. And look, the business already was not doing well. So it was already, and there's 1,000,001 reasons. I'm going to be really careful how much I say on all of these businesses, because I don't believe in fully, bad mouthing anyone. However, I would be not telling the truth to say that these businesses, again, they were not set up for success. They had people and structures that were not supporting them. And when COVID hit, it was it literally, I don't even think it was COVID. It would have maybe lasted maybe a couple more months before it still would have eventually come crashing down. So the worst case scenario happened, and it was probably the best thing that could have happened at that time. I left the startup, and they could not continue having me in the business. So a few of us lost our jobs. But because of COVID and obviously everything that was going on, and it was because of COVID, technically, I was able to actually get support from government payments, go on that for a little bit, and find another job. So I got job seeker payments and then went to find a job. But that was really difficult because we were in the middle of COVID. So it took a really long time before I found something. And I just decided not to waste this opportunity, quite honestly. When do I have the opportunity to have pretty much full-time capability to explore myself, to understand myself in a way that I never have before? So I went on a journey of crazy discovery about myself, and what came out of that was my first business, which was known as Atria. Anyone who's listening to this who knows me, you will know the Atria era. So this was when I was 30 by this point, or maybe I was 29. And yeah, Atria was born out of deep self-discovery. I asked myself so many questions. I worked through, really, what are my core values? What do I want out of this life? What am I passionate about? And also watching, and this is why I have a deep love for content and social media. I watched so many vlogs of how other people were living. I watched some incredible creators who were just out there building their dream life. I was so inspired and so motivated, and it just helped me get clarity. Watching this content and going on this deep self-exploration, I journaled a lot during that time. I was always working with coaches, by the way, throughout pretty much since I was 25. I was doing work, whether working with an expert or another, because I had health things going on. I had, I just had my brain going on. I just could not get the fuck out of my own way. So even though you can hear, and it's so crazy because when I look back on this story, I'm like, girl, you were killing it. You were doing so much. You were doing an incredible job. But at the time, it didn't feel like it. At the time, I was like, more. There's more I can get out of myself. And there was just so much self-doubt and so much fear. So even though I did the thing, it wasn't comfortable. Like, not everything in life is meant to be comfortable, but this felt like where there is something actually going on in my system. There is something going on in my mind. I felt like there was something wrong and I couldn't figure it out. I didn't understand it. Eventually, there's a million and one things that were contributing to it, from the childhood side of things, conditioning, trauma, to just really it's actually all stemmed from childhood and growing up and all of these beliefs and development and patterns that I've then gone and undone and realistically rewired my brain and rewired the way that I move through life. Now it's all enjoyable. Like, I still get uncomfortable. I still get overwhelmed. I still feel all of the things that any human being who are doing hard things feel. But I am able to move through it with a certain amount of ease and enjoyment. And I'm so grateful to Alex back then, who didn't feel like she was doing enough. And that's been a massive pattern in my life, is I'm not doing enough. And I'm actually grateful for that pattern because it's pushed me to learn so much and understand myself in so many ways. And I have so much more peace and gratitude and joy in my life because I went on that journey. I didn't settle. And I'm really grateful to my younger self for never settling and going and doing all of that work. She was amazing. So Atria was for the mental and the physical. And Atria itself came from the word atrium. And if you think of an atrium, it is like that beautiful space where light is coming into it. And that was literally kind of like the tagline or the philosophy behind Atria, was a space that brings light. And I didn't want to be the coach or the teacher or the person sharing their experience at that time. I was sharing my story through content, but I didn't want to be the expert, right? And I didn't want to be the person I didn't feel ready to be the person that was teaching at that time. And I knew so many incredible experts and teachers and mentors and all of the things. And I wanted a space for people to find that information because I had an incredible network, and still do, of so many people that can genuinely help in ways that I truly don't think, that I think people go their whole lives trying to find this information. So I had a real strong purpose to create. It actually, funnily enough, came off the back of my insurance, of a network. You know, in the insurance industry, you kind of know everyone and anyone. You know where you need to go if you want to understand marine insurance. You know where to go if you want to understand the legalities behind certain things. You understand if you've got a complex claim, you know the right lawyers to speak to or the right claims handlers. Like, you really do know all the right people to speak to. So it kind of came from that, of having a directory of providers and a library of information. That was the entire concept. And I started building it out. I really did. And it felt very purposeful. I hosted a couple of events. I did my very first challenge back then, the 30-day Atria Reset Challenge. And I got 30 people that signed up, and it was so good. And I did an event, which was incredible, and I got it sponsored. And that's actually the start of how I met my man, Al, and we're together now. What is it? Almost 5 years later. But I really wasn't, even though I was on my way, I still wasn't doing well. And it actually started to get really bad. And what I'm talking about now, and you can go back and listen to my episodes, but my hormones were in a really bad place at this point. I didn't know it at the time. I just was getting increasingly, basically what was going on is half of the month I'd be completely normal, and the other half of the month I was just in complete disarray. I had crazy fatigue, crazy body soreness and inflammation and breast tenderness. I was having suicidal thoughts, and I was having extreme hopelessness. Half of the month I was on, and I was so into my life and I loved my life, and that's why it was so devastating for me, because I was like, what the fuck is going on? One minute I love my life and I feel so aligned and I feel like I'm well on my way, and I'm feeling present, not just well on my way, but feeling really happy and content with where I'm at. And then the next minute it felt like it was being ripped away from me. I was like, why is it so hard to get out of bed? Why is it even I wasn't recovering from training normally. I've been weight training since I was 18, and at that time, I was like, my body shouldn't have been having the lack of recovery that it was. And I just, none of it made sense. And I was working at the time with my beautiful friend and kinesiologist, Natasha, who is no longer here anymore. And she, thank God that she even knew what PMDD was, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, also known as severe PMS. Thank God she actually even knew what that was, because I went and saw doctors. I am very, you probably have noticed this, I'm very holistic in the way. I'm all about Western. I'm all about functional medicine. And I think Western medicine has its place as well. I wouldn't be here without chemotherapy right now. So it's all, it's all incredible. However, Western medicine didn't have answers on this. No one actually told me what this was until I had a session with Natasha. I'd consistently been seeing her since I was 25, and I was 30 now, or 29. And I told her about what was going on, and we'd been working together kind of through a lot of the things that were coming up, a lot of the self-doubt, a lot of the hopelessness, a lot of the extremes. And anyone who's met me knows I have always had a lot of energy, a lot of life force, a lot of ambition, a lot of love for life. So Natasha and I both just thought, I'm just trying to do too much. I'm just overextending myself. There's just too much going on. Anyway, to cut a long story short, which I never will, that's just not who I am, it ended up being PMDD. She listed off a bunch of symptoms and was like, wait, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have this? Do you have that? And I was like, yes. And she was like, wow, I think you have PMDD. And from that point, I also saw a couple of other doctors in the Western world, specialists, and then also functional holistic doctors and experts. And it was all clarified and confirmed, because I had already been on this exploration, I guess, and I was getting to feel quite exhausted by the symptoms I was feeling and all of the things that were going on. I'd also had a back issue for over 10 years that also was flaring up pretty badly as well. So I was just so over feeling at the whim of my body and my mind, and I really wanted to make sure that that's what this was. So I really did go and speak to all the different experts. I didn't have the money for any of this at the time, by the way. I don't even know how I made all of this work, but I did. And I'd started Atria, and then I'd also gotten a job during that time. So obviously I was looking for a job that entire time through COVID, but as you would remember, barely anyone was hiring. So by the time I got hired for a job, that's when I'd come up with Atria, started the process of Atria, and I think I'd even launched it by then. And then I was asked to join a friend's business, a recruiter in insurance, and joined that business. And that's when I was essentially doing their operations management and a little bit of recruitment as well, because I had this incredible network that I'd built up. But even that, I just was not at my optimum during that time. I was trying to build Atria. I was trying to do my best, obviously, to build this, to help these people that I just joined this business with. And I think now in the health state that I'm in, I would have absolutely smashed it for everyone, but I was just not well. I was really not well. And I eventually made the decision. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I think I spent I can't remember exactly how long before I officially shut down Atria, but it was a good year or so of growing it. But the other thing, yes, my health was in the way, but again, and as you'll see through the theme, the biggest thing that actually stopped me was my self-doubt and my execution and learning. When you start a business, you're not taught some of these things. And especially marketing and operations and all these things can be standard across different businesses, but then you've got to factor in where the market is at, what the landscape of the actual time period you're in, and learning all of that as well. So there was just so much to learn, and I was so overloaded in all different ways that I was like, this is not the thing anymore. So with Natasha and all of the incredible people I was working with, and a lot of them were on Atria, on the network, I just made the decision to shut it down. And I also left that job that I was in, and I went and got a job that was, I would say, a step back. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I needed to go and take time for myself. I needed to go and rest. I needed to just take a step back and kind of ground into life and heal and figure out what was going on for me, and really just, I had an accumulation of all of this amazing stuff, but it was fucking pointless because I wasn't well and I wasn't able to actually execute or do anything with it. So this was when I was living in the Northern Beaches, and I had my own place, and I just, I created this sanctuary for myself. And I would say this was my first version of a cocoon moment, which I now as well can see the theme where it has played out. And I just really went internal. This was when I met Al as well. And that time of my life, like, it will forever be, it's two-pronged. It's so sacred and so beautiful, but also there was so much going on that was hard. And for him, that he was navigating, that was hard. And it's pretty wild when I think back on to that time. So I took a step back. I ended up negotiating a 4-day-a-week working from home role for an insurance broker network. And it was honestly the best thing I could have done for that time. And I just took a step back. I again decided I'll use this as an opportunity to still learn. I'll still learn all of the incredible things that this business has to offer, and I'll help a lot of the business owners that I was working for. I got to meet a lot of really incredible business owners that I also learnt from. Again, there was also aspects of like, oh my gosh, I can do this better. And not in an arrogant way. I really don't say it in an arrogant way. Just meaning like, is this really how people are operating and treating other people? Not everyone. I worked for some incredible leaders during that time. And yeah, it felt good to take a step back, work for someone else, get paid a salary, and not be so reliant on trying to get my own funds going. And, gratefully. And I had this industry and this accumulation of experience to utilize. Yeah, that was a really good time in my life. Again, there was a lot going on though. Good time in my life actually probably isn't the word I would use. This is the theme up until now, it's been two-pronged. It's like I'd be living so much of the life I want to live, but it was always kind of like veiled with this intensity and illness and all these things. I eventually really grounded in. I really connected to myself deeper than I ever have before. My back was completely 100%, and I'd worked with some incredible people around that. Now that is a story in a podcast all on its own, because that was a wild experience, but anyway. And I just started to really focus on enjoying my life, not being so future focused. That was a big thing. Being present and just enjoying my time. I still knew one day I will still go after, the business of my dreams and all of that. And I'll get to why I feel that I've always been moving towards my own business. But I took a step back, and it did wonders for me. My hormones started to get better. I really started to feel so much better in my own skin. Yes, there was still so much that's shedding. Like Al and I both, I still remember so many moments where we had such like crazy conversations of the things that were going on in our life. We shed, I let go of a lot of friendships during that time, experiences and places and things during that time that just didn't align with me anymore. As I said, I was very social growing up, and I was very much in the party scene growing up, and it just started to no longer resonate. In Australia, it's definitely easy in your younger years to just get into. And there's nothing wrong with going out and enjoying your life, but this definitely extended to where it was no longer helpful or in alignment or what I even wanted to do. I didn't want to waste my weeks being hungover. I didn't want to waste my time feeling certain ways, and it wasn't good for my health. I was trying to make all these changes with my health, and I just felt like I was getting pulled into two different worlds. It was like the person that I'm becoming and the person I've been, and I just felt like I was always being pulled back into where I didn't want to be anymore. So then I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling well on my way, and I've taken a second for myself. And that is when, and this was like a good year or so of really grounding in. And that's when I'd said to, and Al has always been an entrepreneur, for the lack of a better term, and he would hate me calling him that. But he's always been a business owner. He's always had his own businesses. He's always been incredibly savvy in terms of his business mind. He's so smart in that world. And, it's definitely not by chance that I gravitated towards him in that way. He helped me with Atria, and that was how we actually started our relationship. And I'll tell that story another time. But he and I started out as friends, as two people working on a business, and it blossomed into love. So Atria served its purpose for many reasons, that's for sure. So as I said, I really came to a place of breathing again. And that's when I started to think, okay, I think that I'm ready to maybe start my own thing again. I was enjoying the business I was working for, but again, it was still the same things over and over again. And I just wanted to be in the creation of my own thing. And I also wanted limitlessness on my money and business. Don't get me wrong. I know that all of the other sides to business, it's not this crazy, incredible mecca. There's so many other sides to it as well. But I loved the limitlessness of what you can create in a business. And that's what I wanted. I wanted no ceilings. So I started to dabble in what is the next thing. And naturally, as I do, I am very purpose driven in my life. I don't feel like I can do things that don't feel like they have a real tangible purpose to them. I'm not about starting a product business or just in any business where it doesn't feel like it actually aligns with me, where it doesn't feel sustainable or fulfilling or purposeful. It has to have a heart center for me. And so I was like, what could I actually do? But that, I could, kind of transition to. So that is where More Than Just started. And again, anyone who's listening will remember that. More Than Just was more than just a product business. And it was essentially a collection of food products. That was what the whole vision was going to be, starting with chili oil. I was obsessed with chili oil at that time. I still am. And I actually had some incredible recipes for chili oil. So Al and he teamed up with me on that business. And we started to create 3 different flavors. One of them was a honey chili oil before hot honey became a thing. Al and I came up with that first. No, we didn't, but hot honey, like chili oil, honey chili oil, and then a chipotle pineapple, and then the OG chili oil. And they were delicious. And we had everything ready to go for that business. Al had already had a product business, so he knew what he was doing there. And yeah, we actually had that ready to go. And it's funny in hindsight, because even More Than Just, it was almost, again, another version of Atria in the sense that I wanted to create a community. I wanted to create a network. I wanted it to be collaborative. I wanted it to have events. I wanted it to be like, food is another one of my greatest passions. I could still see myself doing a food business one day, but yeah, it felt like a good starting place for me to build something, and it was all organic. So because of the PMDD, I went on a hell of a journey with everything health-wise, food, products I was putting on my body, and I learned so much about food during that time and just products in general. And so I really dug into the importance of good quality source of food. So these chili oil products were made from the highest level organic olive oil from WA in Margaret River, incredible olive oil. And all of the base of the products were all really good sourced ingredients. And yeah, so we had it ready to go. We had all of the pallets, we had all of the packaging ready to go. We had all of the ingredients ready to go. It had launched, all the branding was done, the marketing concept was ready, and we're ready to go. And so Al at that time had 2 businesses as well, and he still has those 2 businesses, but he was getting to a point where he wanted extra hands, and I just didn't want to work for somebody else anymore in this way. Like, as much as I was working 4 days a week, working from home, I was still very rigid in the way that I worked with these people, and I just felt like I had more to give, and I wanted to give it to Al. So I left insurance. And the idea was that I would work part-time on Al's business and then part-time on More Than Just. And he would help me kind of as a consultant. Yeah, so everything was well on its way. So I left insurance and this business on the Friday, and then on the Monday was essentially the starting of Al and I creating this little business partnership, and we would be full-time on what was ours, right? That was the Monday, and at Monday at 12:40, it was around 12:45 p.m. that day, I got the call that I have breast cancer. And I'm laughing about it now. I've obviously processed a lot but it was fucked up. You can go back and listen to the cancer story of how I found the lump and the process leading up to it. So obviously coming up to that Monday, I had some biopsies and ultrasounds, and I'd found a lump on my breast, and I went through the exploration of trying to figure out what it was. I thought it was cysts. I was wrong. So yeah, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. I'm not going to go into that story now. You can go back and listen to that episode. It's called The Time I Got Cancer. But that was the shock of a life. Like, I really want to take a second for myself to actually ground into that part of the story, because it is just insane to me. Here I was living what was starting to feel like my best life, truly, and well on my way towards everything I had been working towards. And you can hear it in this story. I'd worked so hard on my mind, my body, my soul, and it felt like someone had just ripped that all away. I get emotional talking about it, obviously. And I still remember that day. I was so excited. Al and I were mapping out the next 12, like we'd already been mapping it all out, but we were mapping out like daily actions and all of these different things. And I had a missed call from I answered it the first time. It was a private number that called through, and boom. So from there, obviously you can go listen to the episode, but that was it. It was everything to the side, because I have to survive. I have to save my life. I have to, I mean, I don't even know. I don't really have the words for it, right? And that was an insane ride. There was so much during that time. Beautifully, that was from the years before that came into this time. Everything I'd accumulated up until this point in terms of mindset practices and mindset mastery, and in case you haven't noticed, I'm all about the mind. That is my thing, is how do you get where you want to go? How do you feel more ease and flow and joy in your life? I truly do believe that a lot of what our minds do cause us so much pain. And I have lived that a lot through my life. So that's why I have a deep sense of purpose for everything that I'm talking about and everything that I share with the world now and everything that I teach. And it's why I have a feeling this is something I'm going to be doing for a very long time, if not forever, because I see the effects that it's had on clients I've worked with now, or just people in my past and myself, of what transformation work can actually do, and when you find the ways to do it. And it's not easy to find the ways. I went on a hell of a journey to figure all of this out. So I am grateful for everything that I learnt previous, because it came into the cancer chapter, and I was able to utilize everything I'd learned. So went into a survival mode, went through treatment, all of that. And on the other side, made it through. I am cancer free. And that was crazy. I obviously went through chemo, radiotherapy, surgery. It was a year long of very intense treatment. I had a very aggressive type of cancer. So, they gave me 18 months if I'd not found it and done nothing about it. So we had to get moving. We had to get going, and we had to save my life. And I have saved my life. The doctors saved my life. Al saved my life. Everyone in my angel team, in my A team, came in during that time, and all of my incredible friends. We did it. And I'm still here, and I will forever celebrate that. I will forever say that I did it. We did it. And I'm still here. So then from there went another hell of a journey. Rebuilding your life after extreme illness like that, or extreme trauma like that, is on its own one hell of a task. But already what I'd been through, by the time that I came out of that chapter, I was fucking exhausted. So again, it was a very much a kind of going on the roller coaster of rebuilding my life. And also during that time, so I shut down more than just, obviously, thankfully, check your life insurance, check your superannuation, guys, to make sure that you have, your superannuation sometimes has life insurance attached. Thank God that I had known that, because I was able to be taken care of during that time by my life insurance, and also government payments as well. So I'm forever grateful for our government in that respect. There's some things they don't always get right, but I am forever grateful for so much of what they do provide. And then obviously Al had his businesses too, but he pretty much had to put that to the side to help me as well, and to be essentially my full-time carer. How interesting that history repeated itself with my mum and my dad in that respect. That's not by chance. yeah, Elle and I have been rebuilding our life since then. So I was diagnosed 2023, end of 2023. And then really sort of end of 2024 was when I was out of the red. It was actually March earlier that year. I had a great response to the treatment, and all of my doctors were really, really happy with how it all went. And it was a complete response, essentially, is what the outcome was. And what that means is that the likelihood of reoccurrence or anything like that is a lot lower for me. So, and in my mind now, it's not coming back for me, whether that's delusional or not, I don't care. It's not coming back. And that's not in a denial way. For me, I'm just living my life, going on about it. I get checks every couple of months. That's pretty standard after you have cancer. So I outsource my fear to my doctors. I check my boobs in the shower all the time and make sure that everything's looking good, but not in a fearful way. And that's taken me a while as well. A lot of processing, a lot of really understanding how my mind works around fear and uncertainty to be able to get to this place. So yeah, so it's been a hell of a time outside of the cancer. So basically outside of treatment, I pretty much finished full treatment. It was like June 2024 was when I finished radiotherapy, which was the last bit of it. So out of that, and you can imagine, I've basically just had, it was probably 8 months by that point of really like nothing but treatment and recovery. Treatment, recovery, saving my life. That was literally it. But I had this fire burning in me naturally because I'm Alex Mansted and I can't help myself. I was just like, when this chapter is over, when I live, when I get past this, we're fucking on. We are on. And nothing is going to stop me from building the life and the business and all of the things of my dreams. Nothing is going to stop me. Not cancer, not PMDD, not all of the things that have happened in my life that felt like weights and felt like anchors. It's not going to stop me. I hired an incredible coach, Shani Thompson, shout out to Shani, out of that chapter. So when I came out of that, I was like, let's go. And not in like I'm going to push myself and overextend myself. Like I'd been overextended my whole freaking life. It wasn't like that. But I was just like, we're going to start taking the steps. We are going to intentionally live life in a way we never have before and already was, but we are going to live it more intentionally than ever before. I'm going to really think about and use this time as an opportunity to really think about, what do I want to do in this world? What do I want to give? What is the thing that I want to dedicate my time and earn money out of and grow and all of the things? So Shani really helped me with that. She helped me with so many things, but she helped me explore really what that was about and the beginning of what is now All In, but at the time was what we called AM Brand. And it was very much of like, I was already thinking about Atria and what that was. And I think that has always been the thing, but I just didn't know how to do it. And at this point, I wanted to step into being the teacher, but I didn't know how to do that. I didn't even know if I was capable of it. Do I even have enough to share? It's so insane now when I think about it, because I'm like, fuck, like this is not to big note myself, but I have accumulated so much and learnt so much. Of course, I've got a lot to pass on, but it was just the self-doubt was still quite heavy during that time. So I did a lot of deep healing work during that time. And throughout, obviously, my time, I've tried so many different modalities, and I am going to do an episode on that because I think that will be interesting. I've done all different types of modalities, from kinesiology to EMDR therapy, to more psychology-based therapy, cognitive therapy. I've done ayahuasca, I have done medicinal mushrooms, all of these things, and I think all of them have had their beautiful accumulation to helping me feel the best I've ever felt now. I feel like I really stepped into the person that I've been trying to become my entire life after the cancer. That's really what it felt like. I feel like I became her, this woman that I had in my mind my whole life, really, or this version of myself that I had been trying to connect with, trying to ground into, not chasing, but just like, I know she's in there and I just can't seem to get out of my own way. So I really feel like during that time after the cancer, that's really what happened there, was I grounded into that better than ever before. So then from there, it's just been, from there it has been an incredible ride, a wild journey. I wouldn't change a single thing, like I said, in my entire story. Not anything, not the cancer, not nothing. I know that's insane to say, but everything has happened exactly as it needed to. It was the original name of this podcast. It didn't happen by chance. The original name was not by chance. And it's just all been designed exactly beautifully. And I am very philosophical about life. I think very existentially about life. And I just see so clearly why it had to happen all the ways that it did. So that has led me to here now. And obviously the birth of All In, which you can go and listen to the last episode, which talks about the birth of All In and kind of what also happened over the last 5 months. I ended up having a scare and having to get surgery. It was all good, not cancer, just a bunch of cysts, but it was that was incredibly traumatic as well, because like Al and I both were so terrified that the cancer was back. And what led after that was, again, just another cocooning of really going into myself. I don't know if anyone is crazy about astrology. If you are into astrology, I'm a Scorpio moon. You will know what that means. It just means that death and rebirth is a big theme in my life. And I know that I have so many different ways of thinking and modalities. I absolutely think the woo, quote unquote, just ancient practices, astrology, human design. I mean, human design isn't specifically ancient, but it's based on ancient philosophies. All of that world of things I absolutely adore, and it has helped me so much in my life. And then newer, more modern, functional ways have also helped me as well. So I'm really a mix of so many different things. And it has all led me, I feel, to here, to All In, where I am in this place where I'm sharing all of this information that I have accumulated, and I have been working with clients and having incredible transformations. And it's honestly been my greatest achievement so far, other than my mind. I always say that, but how I feel and my connection to myself is my greatest achievement. And I think it always will be, probably until I have children. And I imagine that will probably feel really strong to say as well. But for now, really, my connection with myself and my mind and how I feel about life is my greatest achievement. And that's the thing. When the internal feels that way, the external follows, and it already is. So much has been happening in my external world that is just reflecting back exactly where I'm at. So where I'm at now is, obviously I've started All In, which is my baby and my business. And that is all around coaching, events, and sharing content that inspire and motivate and provide really tangible, important information. That is what I'm really purposeful about. So on the side of that, I have utilized my insurance experience, and I started this business out of the cancer chapter. Obviously, I needed to figure out how to make money again and get back to work. So I started a consulting business. I have a incredible partner in that. Essentially, we've got kind of our own setups, but we partner in on things together, and we're now partnered in on a contract together. I work 2 days a week on that, and then the rest of the time I am on All In, and I absolutely love both. I feel very purposeful in this business that we're working for now. A lot of what we're doing is helping this business. They're literally in a startup. They're already a bigger business, and then they've got a network that they're building and starting. So my partner and I are helping to build that up with an incredible team behind us, and it feels so incredibly purposeful and fulfilling. The business I'm working for are incredible people. They all have their hearts, I feel, in the same place as myself, which helps. I feel like very aligned, and it feels very intentional. And it took me a minute to really find an opportunity like this, but I'm really grateful to be working for them. And it feels good because I feel like I've done it also, again, on my own terms, and in a way that I can really give back to them, but then also be giving to this purpose that I feel and building that out as well. So it's all been beautiful. And it just kind of goes to show, like, don't cast off some of the things that have happened, some of the past experiences you've had. You never know when. This is the time we live in. We live in the most incredible time in this world where you can start a business or do anything. So you can give value and receive money almost of anything that you've done in your life. There's so many different ways that you can roll that out, whether it's an Etsy business or it is a online content creator business or it is a product business that feels really heart-centered and purposeful, or whatever it is. There's so many things that you can do. And by the way, I do not demonize working for someone else. I do not demonize being an employee. There has been so many times in my life I'm deeply grateful that I was an employee in that way and helped me so much with where I'm at. I have friends who don't want to start their own businesses. To them, that sounds like hell. There is so many sides to business that are not for everyone. Absolutely. So I just want to make sure I say that because I have deep gratitude for both sides. So that's kind of my story that's led me to now. And when I was writing this out and when I was reflecting and going over all my notes, this really became like what I saw, the themes. This hasn't just been about business for me. Like business aligns so much with my core values around freedom, growth. Like I said, I have a deep passion and respect for the creation process. And I think that business is just a vessel for that creation process. And I love that so much. And your ability to earn money. We all need money and we all deserve money. And we all deserve to set our lives up in the way that we want. And business is a tool for that. So that is obviously many reasons why I love business. But I think, why have I been so driven to start my own thing? Why have I been so driven to do the thing? And I truly do believe it's mainly been about self-belief, trust, coming home to myself, connecting to myself, learning about myself, discovery, and healing. Like I truly do believe that my pursuit of business has been incredibly healing for me in my life. And I'm so grateful and so thankful to business for that and my career and everything that I've gone through. So yeah, that is my story around business and career and self-belief and trust and all the things. And I feel that I am now 100% the dreamer who takes action. And that is where the tagline came from with this podcast and with All In general. I am somebody who absolutely goes all in on their life. I have, and you can see that through my story over and over again. I'm somebody that doesn't quit on themselves and goes all in and makes it happen. And it hasn't been easy and it has been full of many hurdles, but I wouldn't change a thing. I really wouldn't. And I believe that it has all led me to here and what I am bringing to the world and the future. I'm so fucking excited for my future, truly. It's because of the person that I feel I am and the capability that I feel that I have now, which didn't happen overnight. It was built. And I'm so excited to pass that on to people, that process of how you actually build that belief and the practical actual steps of how you integrate that into your life and transform and change. So that's what I'm obviously truly passionate about. And the future for me, like I actually do see myself, there are other businesses in my future, not anytime soon, but I don't just we're all multifaceted. We have different passions. I have so many different passions that I'm super excited to explore, but I'm also now not in a mindset of kind of like doing it all at once. I feel like I'm looking at my life in chapters, and the chapter I'm in right now is very much around foundations and solid ground and really like obviously rebuilding life after cancer and all of those things. But I know there's going to come chapters where I'm like, right, I'm ready to give this a go, or I'm ready to go after that passion. I'm also setting myself up for my motherhood chapter. And I have no idea how many years away that is, but for me, that is a massive purpose as well, is being able to spend motherhood in a way that really aligns with myself and how I want to parent and how Al wants to parent. And both of us really are shaping our lives now for that chapter as well. So yeah, I'm very excited and I'm so grateful for you being here in this journey and being here and listening along the way. I hope that you're getting something out of this. I really do. And please feel free to contact me. Instagram's probably the best way to direct message me. If something comes up with you, if something comes up about this episode or any of my content, I want to hear what comes up. I know a lot of people say that and we all think like it's so easy for everyone to think that everyone's just selling these days. I really do understand that. But I want to hear it. I genuinely love these conversations. So please reach out. Tell me what came up for you. Tell me what landed. What are you going through? What are you experiencing? And I would love to hear from you. So that is it. I'll put all of my details down in the episode description and you'll be able to find me in all the different ways. But as always, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for going all in on this episode with me. And I will see you on the next episode.